Welcome, everyone. My name is Bruna Riboldi. I am a project manager at the Data Science Knowledge Center at Nova SBE, and I have the pleasure to be your host for today's webinar, a case study on reskilling into tech. In this session, Gilmar Lima, a former Telecomm Service Manager turned developer at the age of 36, will share his story. The session will be co-presented by Shannons, Director of Levagon Portugal. And here, just to give you some context, recently Levagon and Nova School of Business and Economics launched a partnership. We are developing together a training program that is a part-time bootcamp in data science, which it will start in June. During the session, you can send your questions on the Q&A tool, so our guests can answer in the last minutes of our webinar. That being said, I would like to welcome Shannon and Gilmar. Let's start.
Thank you, Bruna. Let's start. And we don't have a lot of time here. We're going to try to wrap this conversation up in 20 minutes. So I'll try to make my introduction a little brief as well. My name is Shannon. I'm the director for Levagon Portugal, as Bruna said. Just to give you some context on what we're doing here and our backgrounds, at least in Levagon. Levagon is a coding school. We've been in Lisbon for the last 4 years, and our mission is to bring technical skills to non-technical professionals. And in Lisbon, we have done that with almost 400 students that are now alumni to date, and mainly through our web development bootcamp. So for the last 4 years, we've been running an intensive 9-week bootcamp that teaches people how to code and build web products, teaches complete beginners. And that is what Gil, as I call him as an American, Gilmar, went through 2 years ago. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that. But I just want to say, our role to play in this current situation, this surreal life that we're all living. What are we calling it? AC after COVID, or anyway. We really feel like, I know Nova SBA talks a lot about, the future of work. And I think for sure in Portugal, we feel like, the future of work is now here. And so now more than ever, it's so important that we really, as companies, we think about, what it means to reskill, upskill, digital transformation, you name the buzzword, what that really means in terms of like for each professional. And then as a professional, how do you stay relevant? How do you keep your skills relevant? I also would like to say that Gil's story, which we will get into, I won't talk too much more. Gil's story is really interesting to me because I've sat with companies in Portugal that moved here because they heard that Portugal had a ton of developers. But they're quickly finding that there's not enough mid to senior devs in Portugal to fill the demand. And there's a lot of juniors, but not a lot of mid to senior devs. And I feel, with what you're going to find with Gil's story is that there's this talent pool out there that's not being tapped into of professionals that have maturity, they have work experience, they've managed teams, they've managed big projects, and they're just lacking the technical skills to execute in another capacity and to be more strategic for their organizations. And also, for those of you that maybe aren't in the recruitment side or aren't executives in a corporate, and you're really watching this video to feel it personal inspiration, which I think is really cool, please reach out to us at the end because, at Levagon, we do have a lot of tools and programs that your companies can apply for where we can, get you started on your upskilling journey. Anyway, talk to us at the end. I'll share my email in the chat. Okay, but let's get started because this is a very quick webinar. And we will leave some 5 minutes at the end for Q&A from what I believe. So feel free to add your questions to the Q&A tab at the bottom. So Gil, hi.
Hey, Shannon. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invite.
We're going to do this kind of as a back and forth. I'm going to ask Gil some questions and we'll go like that. So first of all, what were you doing before you joined our coding bootcamp? And just briefly, what was your role?
My role, I was a service relationship manager at a telecom company. So basically, I was in this company for around 7 years. And so I worked in many roles within this company. In my the last 2 years on this company, I was, like I said, managing relationships. So it's a very non-techy job. It was really a more managing the connection with the company and basically managing their relationship, really.
And I understand that you had studied a little bit of programming when you were in college. Is that right? What made you want to like dive back into that, in your mid-30s?
So yeah, I did went to college for systems information, but then my past work was mostly in databases, uh, and I've been working with Oracle databases and database programming, some data science as well. Uh, but for me, it was always something that was lacking. That I wanted to do, and I wanted to uh, shift, to change the way that I was working into a web development, mostly because I was also searching for some independence, searching for new projects and be less limited, let's say, and uh, go from an end-to-end process, developing the data models that we wanted, and then actually deploying them into uh, uh, fully fledged tools online.
And I actually, this isn't a question that I prepped for you before, but I'm curious because I was going to ask like exactly how old were you when you did Le Wagon 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was 36 when I joined.
And the average age in the boot camp is actually is around late 20s to 30, and so it is older. But I think it's also because as we get older, and I'm generalizing a lot here, but I think we often think it's too late for us. And so I'm curious if like you were nervous about changing your career completely at the age of 36, because you were already in like a pretty like senior position in your company in the US, right? Like you were, yeah.
Yeah, correct. So going doing the boot camp, it was like you said. So the average age is way lower than mine. And it's almost like going back to college, where you have a bunch of people who are way younger than you, and you have to be open to that, right? So you have uh, to to know how to deal with people who are younger. And sometimes, as time goes by, we are not as patient. But if you're going to take this during the boot camp or any other training, you have to have the attitude of being open up, right? And yeah, and another thing was exactly that, re- uh, risking the position you have, because as time goes by and you stay longer in a company, you start getting comfortable, right? And this is, I think, you can enjoy that sense of comfort for a while, but you have to be always mindful that you have to remain competitive. And so this is why I started thinking in the terms of my specific position, for instance, as service relationship manager. As we see the trends of technology today, there's many positions today that will not exist in 5 to 10 years. So you have to be quite aware of that and take by your hands really the position to change your career. And
Actually, I just realized we haven't given context. So, and I completely obviously agree with you. But one thing I wanted to bring up was that you, right after the boot camp, and this is a special case. This isn't everyone. I will say that while those of you that are considering, maybe changing careers, or those of you that are executives in companies and maybe don't have people with any technical background that you're looking at reskilling, we have students that go through our boot camp, even at older ages, that don't have a technical background and successfully reskill. So from management, from marketing, getting into economics, you can say it's a little bit more, technological, but we do have students. So I think it's also a lot about mindset, which we can touch on. But Gil, I also want to say, so after the boot camp, Gil got hired and this was 2 years ago, he got hired not as a junior developer, but as, what was your title? Just a developer, right? A software developer. Mm-hmm. And were you managing anyone at that point, or was it later on?
No. That first position, so I was just joining a team, right? Not a lead developer on that team, and but I think that what helped very much on that team, and I think that this is an advantage that seasoned professionals have, is that you already have soft skills. And I don't think that some people think that soft skills, you can play it down, and the technical skills are way more important. They are important, but soft skills can make a new job opportunity. So if you know how to be a good team worker and you have work ethics, you're creative, you know how to deal with the team around you, it's extremely possible that a company will hire you because you can train that person, right? So that's exactly what happened to me. The team I joined, I had little experience on the language that we were going to work on, but they were willing to train me because they understood that I have the right attitude for the position that they were hiring for.
Yeah, and that's something that that leads to the next question, which was, it's very rare, to be honest, for our students to get hired not as a junior developer, but as like a mid-level developer right after the boot camp, which comes with more responsibility, more pay, more everything, right?
Correct.
And I'm curious, like, do you think it was your attitude that gave you a leg up? Do you think it was, what are a few of the points, that gave you a leg up on getting that position?
So like we stated in the beginning, I had some prior experience, right? It wasn't on web development. I think that may have played a role, but I do believe that, like I said, soft skills is the most important one, because you can, like I said, you can hire someone that is extremely capable, and but very hard to work with, and then it has an impact on projects, right? So you have to have the right attitude to join the team. If you're starting up again, if you're moving careers, you have to have this mindset of I'm here to learn, and even though I have some past experience on many other stuff, here I'm here to learn, and hopefully you can also share and teach a few things to other people.
Yeah. That's what, I think, in my opinion, when we started Livagon here in Lisbon, we really thought that it was just about teaching people how to code. And I've realized that actually what we do is, teaching people how to code is the tool, but it's really teaching adults how to be vulnerable again.
Right,
and
exactly.
Teaching them how to feel really uncomfortable in like beginners, because if you want to be competitive and survive in what we're living as the future of work, you're going to be a beginner over and over and over again. Right. And then teaching them how to be open and learn, because I think like you said, we get really comfortable, and I don't know if the right word is stuck, but we get comfortable in what we're doing, and we have some inertia, and if you're not constantly learning in this day and age, and you know, and having a curiosity, then you're quickly going to become irrelevant. I mean, that just shows. So Gil, I guess, what are you doing now? And then we, you know, I've already talked to you recently. We've caught up, and you're even sharing with me, you're already studying again. You know, you're already studying on the side. And I think that's also the attitude here that it takes, you know, and that's the attitude that we've seen with the students that have become successful in their careers after the boot camp and advanced. It's not necessarily the foundation they had coming into the boot camp. For us, it's really been the attitude and the curiosity and this fearlessness in learning. Correct, but so what are you doing now? I keep on rambling.
So now, well, after you do the boot camp, and anyone that transitions from a non-tech to tech will find that tech has a huge amount of opportunities and fields to learn. So it's not only code, so you can also jump to networking and many other types of technology. In my case, I was interested in cloud computing, and so I started studying about it, and studied enough to get certified on cloud computing by Amazon Web Services. So they have a track of a study for cloud architecture, and I was curious about it. That was exactly that. So I was curious about it. I wanted to learn more. And I think that when you jump into tech, it's exactly that. So you learn one thing, and then you look to your left, you find something else, and you keep pulling that thread. There's always more to learn. And so this is one of the things that I'm doing now. I'm learning.
While you work for the European Commission.
Correct, yes. And on the last year, since Portugal, I got an invitation to move to Brussels. And now I'm working at the European Commission, and it was a really quick path of growth. So from Lebanon 2 years ago, when like we stated, I got a mid position or development position, and it really quickly grew to a senior position here in Brussels at the Commission now.
Really cool.
It's really cool.
I think it's really inspiring. But I believe for me it's very inspiring. So I'm glad that we can share it with everyone. And this is maybe repeating a little bit, but it's really, I think, the emphasis of this very short talk, which is, what kind of people do you think can make this transition? And I guess maybe it's personifying them in terms of, well, what we already discussed about mindset, attitude, maybe background, and what kind of people can't, to kind of sum it up in your mind.
I don't think that anyone
obviously
can't.
this is our opinion. I
Correct.
guess I'm being a little bit provocative and saying can't. So
I don't think that anyone cannot do it. Everybody can. It's really a matter of planning and knowing what you want. I remember on the first day that we started the bootcamp, it was a Sunday, and we had everybody on the building, and you asked, why are you doing this, and what is your fear, right? And I remember that for me, my fear was doing this and resulting to nothing. And it really is about, if you really want this, you're going to have to make it happen, right? So you have all that. If you can have soft skills and the attitude when you're searching for a job, but during the boot camp as well, you're going to have to put in the work. You're going to have to, it's going to be very, very challenging. And many times, and we've talked about this many times, sometimes you kind of feel like you want to give up because it's quite intense, right? But you have to always remember, why did you start it in the first place? What were the reasons that you started to do that? And if they are still valid, you're going to have to push it, because you're going to get through at the end, and you can make it. And I think that anyone can. There isn't one specific type of people who cannot.
Yeah. Very well. It's a much nicer version than how I was angling it. Um, and on the corporate side, so I'm sure we have individuals on this call, like I said, that are watching this for their own inspiration. But if you're an executive right now, and frankly, there's a lot of companies going through, as we all know, layoffs, partial layoffs. Do you think that there's a way to identify these roles that have become obsolete so quickly, to identify the type of person that could potentially, be reskilled? Because you left your company and you were obviously an invaluable asset, and if they had maybe invested in you themselves, they could have kept you on board, right? So then this is I know I didn't send you this question before. I was just I don't know if you have an opinion there. I obviously do, but I'm curious what your opinion is.
I do. And speaking from my position at the time, that, like I said, I was on this company for around 7 years already, and it really can be a huge waste for a company, because companies will train you, will spend money on keeping you, and so. The ones, I think that if you want to look for the people who you want to target on how to reskill, take the companies have to be aware today that many positions will disappear in a few years. So I think that I would pinpoint most initially which positions are bound to disappear, or the ones that they already have. Yeah, because it's already predicted that 50% of tasks today will be automated in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years, I'd say, right? And so companies have to start preparing now, and giving the opportunities for these workers to reskill, because they are going to have to hire developers at some point, right? The more positions are automated, they're going to have to hire these people, and it's expensive to hire someone, right? It's expensive to find that person, to train that person. It takes quite a long time for that person to be knowledgeable of all the internal processes. And if you already have someone who is knowledgeable of how your company functions, you're adding on top of that, and in 2 years' time, that person will be performing extremely well. And you take this. This is a global trend, right? The move that Microsoft did I think that last year, when they bought GitHub, it's predicted that they did this because the more code becomes something regular that everybody will end up doing anyway. So they want to incorporate that into the Office package and make into an everyday tool. So so I would target positions that have a high potential of being irrelevant, but they already have a huge knowledge of the company.
Yeah, and I would say in terms of individuals, I think that in Portugal, there's still this idea that someone needs to have a computer science background if they want to be successful in the IT space. And I would really focus on mindset, curiosity, just willingness to learn.
Correct, and, yeah. I think that the barriers to enter a tech position has lowered. Every year, new frameworks are introduced that eases up, reduces the learning curve to use it efficiently. So yeah, you don't need necessarily to have a tech background for that. It's really curiosity, attitude, and push it through the whole process.
Yeah, cool. So we are a little over what we said. Well, we're a few minutes over. We have time for, I guess, a few questions. If anyone has any questions, we're happy to take them.
So much, Shannon. And thank you, Gilmar, for sharing your story with us. And moving forward, the questions from the audience were, first was specifically what kind of positions will be the most in demand in the next 5 years? And I think you were just answering this right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think, in the last 5 years, web development or software engineer has moved up in the ranks to #1. And now that from what we see from LinkedIn surveys and reports, that's slowly changing. And web developer will still be up there, or software engineer. But data science is becoming more relevant, which, is this... is symbolic as to why we're launching the data science bootcamp with Nova this summer. And so data science related positions. And, what Gil's getting into with cloud computing is also one of these skills that is moving up there in terms of demand. So these are some ideas. I mean, I think for many people, these positions sound so vague. I mean, it's just like, what is that? Like, what do those people do? But I would say, like, start the process of being curious by getting online, and there's YouTube videos where you have people working in data science describing what their days look like, or you have software engineers kind of talking about like what it means to code. And so, I mean, I think you can practice what we're saying in terms of mindset by just being curious if you're not sure what some of these positions mean. So, yeah.
Okay, and talking about the mindset, to wrap up, what do you say it would be like the 3 more important things someone thinking on change careers to tech it's a must-have?
Okay. Well, yeah, okay.
Shannon, you go first.
So when we interview candidates for our boot camps, there are a few things that we look for. If they're saying, okay, I want to change careers, I want to get a job, then we don't so much look at their background as we do kind of their attitude and what we've been talking about. So one, we want them to be open. We want them to be open to possibilities, to be flexible. We want them to be open because a lot can happen, and it's going to be a very different environment than probably what they've experienced before. We also want them to be humble, and because we found that oftentimes, and I can have a very big ego, but the bigger your ego, the harder it is to learn hard. It can be more difficult to learn hard things or cognitively demanding things. So we try to look for people that have some humility and not too much. We don't want them to be super insecure. They need to have a little bit of confidence and belief in themselves. So, because we've seen the smartest people with lacking confidence, and it's been a struggle. So you have to have some self-belief, but not too much self-belief. We want you to
just the perfect amount.
Yeah, there's a balance there.
To be flexible.
Yeah. And the third thing, I guess, it's like just curiosity, like excitement and wanting to like figure things out and like tinker and play. And like, I think that idea of curiosity, which I know it sounds vague, but that's, it's really just like asking questions. And if you don't understand something, like going and searching for it, which if you know of developers in your lives, then, or engineers also, I love to generalize, but there are people that like just dig into little projects on the side and like they get curious about really, I don't know, like off the beaten path type of ideas. And so, but we can foster that attitude within us is my point. And I definitely have fostered that since joining this community 5 years ago. So, yeah.
So just complementing what Shannon said, I think that all those points really defines a lot who wants to join a bootcamp and change their careers. Definitely curiosity and tinkering on the side. I think that most, if not all, developers they always have their pet projects on the side, right? Tinkering with different languages that they don't know, and because of this curiosity side. And I think that besides being open and humble, you also have to be not attached to one specific goal. We have many colleagues that joined the bootcamp, and they had this idea: I want to be a software developer that does this, right? That works this way. And it ends up that once you start doing the bootcamp, you end up finding, oh, there's this other side of software development that I would like to pursue that. So it opens you to new perspectives that you didn't have before.
Like cloud computing.
Like cloud computing, for instance. Yeah. And we had also colleagues that became front-end developers. It's still development, but it's very focused on design. So it opens up to many possibilities. And so yeah, openness is, I think it's the most. Yeah.
I mean, these are just good traits for life, really. But
it is, yes, yeah.
but especially if you want to change careers later in life. So
great. Yeah. Okay, once again, super thank you, Shannon. Super thank you, Gilmar.
Thank you, Bruna. Thank you, Gilmar.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us. The session it's being recorded, and it will be available on Roll to Play website. So thank you so much, and wish you a nice week.
Ciao.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Ciao. Bye.